What's that? Nothing. Mm-hmm. Good evening. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone in the audience. Everyone's present tonight. Thanks for being here. The board, the superintendent, and I were pleased that you're here. In essence, we're here to celebrate achievement. We're going to review some information tonight. We're going to make some policy decisions related to the effective operation of the Polk County School Board. So I would like to call the February 27th, 2024 regular school board meeting to order. Now, if we could all please rise, I would like to ask Mrs. Fields to give our convocation, and if you could remain standing after that for our Pledge of Allegiance.
We have come this far by faith, leaning on you, Lord, trusting in your holy word, and you have never failed us yet. And Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for life. We thank you for health, and we thank you for strength. We thank you, Lord, that we are vertical and not horizontal. We just thank you. You are so good. Father, we pray that you would bless this board meeting and that you would bless those that are here to be celebrated. We thank you for them. We thank you for their work in the community. We thank you for their families. For everyone that's assembled here today, we say thank you. We say bless them, Lord God. Bless their families. We pray for our students. We pray for our employees. We pray for our board members, and we pray for our community. We just pray for everyone that's impacting anybody's life. And Father, we just thank you again for your blessings, and we want to be mindful, Lord, that no matter what decision we make tonight, we hope and pray that they're going to be for the benefit of those that we serve. And we're going to be mindful to give you all the honor, you're going to get all the glory, and you know you're going to get all the praise. We ask all these things. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
So at this time, I would like to invite Clester Rodriguez to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
My name is Clester. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so if you could all please have a seat. And we have a special guest tonight. We're going to hear from Mr. Clester Rodriguez here. And as we get going, if it's possible, could you introduce who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Your name.
My name is Clester. I am 9 years old. I am in 3rd grade.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Mr. Clester, I hear that you have some guests with you tonight. If you can introduce your guests.
I am here with my mom, dad, and brothers. My teachers are Miss Hancock and Miss KK.
This is amazing. Indeed. Amazing. All right, he's got a lot more to say to us tonight, so this is awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your favorite subject.
My favorite things about school are PE, working and learning new vocabulary on my iPad, and going to kindergarten for whole group time.
Wow, wow. So there's something about technology too. Can you share your interest with us?
I use an iPad with touch chat to communicate.
Wow. And then some of your interest.
I like to play with my brothers, talk on my communication device, and eat Oreos.
Whoa. All right. This is pretty amazing. Okay, so when you grow up, what is it that you would like to do?
When I grow up, I would like to teach kids how to use a head pointer to talk like I do.
Wow, this is amazing. So Superintendent Hyde, I know that you've planned something as a gift tonight, and if you could maybe draw attention to that.
Yes, sir. So I apparently owe it to Clester. I had the pleasure of meeting him, his teachers. There's a long story behind this because without this device, this young man had been nonverbal for a very long time. And as soon as we were able to provide him with this level of technology, his vocabulary, it just absolutely exploded. And he has an amazing smile. He beat me at arm wrestling. And so I understand that he loves Oreos. And so my concession after you beat me at arm wrestling is we have a nice gift for you. Someone has a bag, and we're going to present that to you. And you do have to share, because that is far too many Oreos for one person to eat. So.
That's amazing.
I don't want a rematch.
I want. Rematch.
Oh, do it right now, right now. That is awesome.
Arm wrestle.
This is great.
I want rematch arm wrestle, Mr. Hyde.
Nice.
I will come visit you in your classroom. We can do it privately. How about that? But Clester and his teachers, too, I want to commend them because what they, not only during my last visit there, they brought, obviously, this young man to our attention and what a fabulous experience and interaction I had with him and his classmates. But as a result of their advocacy, we're looking at additional opportunities for us to provide adaptive technology for our students to make sure that it's current. One of the problems you have with adaptive technology is once you procure it, 6 months later, there's a new device and a better device that allows them to actually speak faster and with eye recognition and other opportunities. But they also brought to my attention the current condition or the non-existent condition of our adaptive PE equipment. And so as a result of their advocacy, we are installing a specialized playground on that campus for those students. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you.
Very nice. So, Mrs. McLeod, I want to recognize Principal McLeod. If you can just stand as well. Appreciate your leadership on that campus as well, and thanks for the parents and families for being here tonight.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Yep. It's KK. Thank you. Did you have anything else?
As a token, Clester likes to paint using his head pointer.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, man. That is awesome. Yeah, thank you, Clester. Wow.
You want to tell them?
Mrs. Fields.
Goodbye.
Great job. Thank you.
Wow, this is great. Can we give him a round of applause, please? Wow. Hope you have a great rest of the year, Clester. All right, so board members, we're going to now move to the acceptance of the school board agenda. The first item tonight, obviously, is to accept that. Superintendent Hyde, are there any revisions to the agenda as printed?
Item K, number 2, administrative and instructional personnel actions. There was an attachment that was updated. Item K4, district staffing updates. Attachments were added. Item M4, amendment Learning Resource Center for Polk County. Incorporated ESC Public, item was added. Item P2, half-cent sales tax oversight committee appointee, an item was added. That concludes any revisions.
Thank you, Superintendent. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, board members. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda for February 27th, 2024 with the noted revisions. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
All right, very good, thank you. So Ms. Cunningham made the motion and Ms. Wyatt seconded. So the motion on the floor is to accept the February 27th, 2024 school board agenda as printed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And that motion carries. Next up, we have new administrators. Superintendent Hyde, would you lead us through that?
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the board, members of the community and staff, thank you for being here this evening. First up, we have Jessica McNamara, Director for Recruitment and Teacher Engagements, being promoted to Senior Director of Personnel. Hello.
So it's really interesting because just about a year ago, I stood in this exact same spot and was super excited to be the Director of Recruitment and Teacher Engagement. And now I'm here today, honored to be the Senior Director of Personnel. I am super excited for the position. I'm honored to have been chosen. I know it's a big job, but I'm up for the challenge. I want to say thank you to each of you for having the confidence in me to be able to carry forth the role of the job. And also to my folks in HR. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have the confidence and the support that I'm going to need moving forward. And I'm just really excited to be in Polk County Public Schools and to see where the future holds for us.
Thank you. All right, very good.
Next up is Nildales Caraballo, Principal at Juanita Elementary, is now being promoted to Acting Senior Director for ESOL.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First, I'd like to thank our Heavenly Father, because without Him, nothing in life is possible. Thank you, Mom, for giving me those experiences throughout my life. Then I'd like to thank the school board. Thank you all very much. Mr. Hyde, Mr. Green, I appreciate you guys considering me for this position. I would also like to thank my ESOL family, who has greeted me with open arms. And let me tell you, that's always the hardest part of being a leader, is being accepted by your team. And that happened quite quickly, so very excited that I have them to support me. Then I want to thank all of those amazing leaders who have inspired me to be where I'm at today. And I would like to name a few: Ms. Strong, Ms. Townley, Ms. Nave, Mr. McNaughton, and somebody else is here today, Ms. Julie Grice. Can you wave? She's still here? There you go. Thank you very much for inspiring me always to be the best that I can be. I also want to thank my family. I have my husband here, if he can wave. Abraham, for always supporting me through the good and the bad. You know, this is a tough job sometimes, and he always accepts me with open arms, and sometimes that's all you need is a big hug. Thank you, Papa. And then I have my daughter, who has the same passion for children that I have. She is a first grade teacher at Willow Oak, and hopefully one day she'll follow in her mama's footsteps. My mom is also here. She has been the one that's kind of set this walk in life for me. She's always said to reach for the stars, and because of her, I'm here. She has I'm a first-generation graduate. And with that said, it's been a struggle. But if you look at life, and just continue to persevere, you succeed. And people will find the best in you. And I think that's what's happened to me, because I never expected to be here today, but I am, and I'm very grateful and very honored. And I'd like to wrap it up by saying that I have an amazing team, and we're looking forward to doing awesome things here in Polk County this year. And we're going to do it with a lot of passion, a lot of love, and we're going to do it for students. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I promise we're going to work hard. Have a good day.
Great pictures. We want to bring your family down, or anybody else that's with you as well, if we could. Next up, we have Douglas Harwell, Head of Programs from Davenport High School, is now being promoted to Acting Senior Director for Facilities and Operations.
I just want to thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to serving in this capacity. For those who don't know, I was a non-degreed teacher. I was hired back in 1995 as my 27th year in education. In 2014, I finished my bachelor's degree, thanks to my wife and her encouragement. But I have then pursued the administration position over those years. But over 27 years, there's so many people I'd like to thank, and I don't want to take the time to do that right now. And I know y'all got a busy evening, but I just want to thank you for the opportunity. I promise to serve as best I can.
Thanks, Doug. Not with us this evening is Lauren Jukakis, Assistant Principal at Laufman Oaks Elementary, being promoted to Acting Principal at Floral Avenue Elementary. Next is Mr. Alfredo Gonzalez, TRST for ESOL Services, being promoted to Assistant Director for ESOL.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for this opportunity to continue serving our Polk County ESOL population. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sheila Concepcion, school-based math coach at Laufman Oaks Elementary, being promoted to acting assistant principal at Laughlin Oaks Elementary.
Good evening. Good evening. I stand before you today with immense gratitude. I am truly honored and humbled to be presented as the acting assistant principal for Laufman Oaks Elementary School. This position has been a goal of mine for many years, so it is not only an honor, but also extremely fulfilling to me both personally and professionally. I want to thank God and my two wonderful parents, Wanda and Louis, for their continuous guidance, support, and encouragement. I want to thank my husband, Arby, and our three children, Jeremiah, Abigail, and Matthew, for being my motivation in my professional journey. And finally, I would like to thank my phenomenal principal, Sarah Stoker, for her unwavering belief in me, for an absolute inspiration and the type of leader I aspire to be, for generally supporting me and helping me grow professionally, and overall for being a kind, committed principal who I am blessed and proud to work alongside. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Nice. Yeah. Well done.
Congratulations. The final administrator to be recognized this evening is also not in attendance, but we don't want to not recognize Mr. Joseph Santiago, Administrative Assistant at Ridge Community High School, being promoted to Acting Assistant Principal at Boone Middle School. Mr. Chair, that concludes administrative appointments.
Great, thank you, Superintendent. Moving down, we are now at the special recognitions item. So, Superintendent, would you actually lead us through our special recognitions?
Yes, sir. At this time, Mr. Justin Sharpless will step down for this evening's special recognitions. I'd also like to invite Dr. Adrian Anthony, Senior Director of Equity and Diversity, to please come forward for the recognition of our Martin Luther King Jr. Essay Contest winners.
Triumphant Tuesday. I am Dr. Adrian Anthony, Senior Director of Equity and Diversity Management, and I have Conchera Adams, my Senior Analyst. I would like to bring greetings to the Superintendent, the School Board Chair, and to each and every school board member here for your hard work and dedication to the many citizens of Polk County and your commitment to transforming the lives of our most precious treasures, our students. With that same spirit of excellence, we would like to honor this historical Black History Month and give homage to the many people who sacrificed their resources and lives for American liberty. Given such a rich history, we would like to honor our Polk County School District students who are here today, who wrote life-changing essays inspired by the legendary Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This year's theme was building communities to transform unjust systems. Now, the way we're going to run it is, I'm going to name the third place, second, and first place winners, and then we get to first place. The first place winners are here. We'll have our parents and principals and teachers come down to take a photo. So let's get ready to rock and roll. So our 23rd Annual Essay Challenge Contest winners are, in third place for elementary school, grades K, 1, and 2. In third place, Devin Moore Jr., first grader from Madela Elementary School. And the principal's here too. Second place, Alejandro Prats, a second grader from Citrus Ridge Civics Academy. And first place, Savannah Slama. She's a first grader from Winston Academy of Engineering. Come on down. All right. Thank you, sir. All right, for elementary schools, grade 3, 4, and 5, our third place winner is Mackenzie Dean, a fourth grader from the Dr. N.E. Roberts Elementary School. Our second place winner is Marissa Fry, a fourth grader from the Dr. N.E. Roberts Elementary School. And we'll bring it home. Our first place winner is Leanne Duvalt, a fourth grader from the Dr. N.E. Roberts Elementary School. And for middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, in third place, we have Karina Lopez Gomez, an 8th grader from Denison Middle School. And in second place, we have Colin Swaby, a 6th grader from Discovery Academy of Lake Alfred. And in first place, we have Simi Odeni, 7th grader from Davenport School of the Arts. Come on, Simi. Now for high school. Thank you, Dad. Now for high school. In third place, we have Dakari Curry, a senior at Polk State Lakeland Gateway. And in second place, we have Alana Coombs, a freshman at Polk Pre-Collegiate Academy. And in first place, we have Jaden Checkinson, a junior from Davenport High School. And I will be in the area next week, so I will take it to them. Unfortunately, they can't make it. So thank you. A round of applause for everyone. And moreover, I would like to say thank you to all of the Polk County employees who supported all the events, from Martin Luther King parades to all the Black History Month events. We truly appreciate your service and volunteering. And also to the leadership that's here and those that are online, we want to say thank you for your tenacity every day, keeping the dream alive. Thank you so much.
Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Susan Copeland, Executive Director for the Polk Education Foundation, to please come forward to present a scholarship donor recognition.
School board members, Superintendent, I get to do one of my favorite things this evening. I get to invite or introduce a new stakeholder. Suncoast Credit Union and the Suncoast Foundation have been part of Polk County Public Schools for many years now. They have a relatively new executive director, and Courtney Berry is here with me this evening. A year now? It's been two. A little over a year. And I remember when Suncoast came into Polk County, and they jumped right in. They had a meeting with us, and they said, what can we do to help? And just about anything we've asked for, they have done. They've been huge supporters, excuse me, of our free teacher market. You will often see pictures on social media of the bright orange bags that teachers use to take everything they need for free home from our market. They've been a supporter of our AmeriCorps Polk Reads reading tutoring program, helping struggling kindergarten, first, second, and third grade readers become better readers, and then have become very actively involved in our grants program, so providing funding to schools to do various things. And one of the really neat things that they have done over the past few years is provide book vending machines. I'm sure you've seen them when you've been out, and students love those as incentives. But what we quickly found was when you ran out of the books, you had no more incentives. So Suncoast really has been generous, thank you, it has been very generous in providing funds so that they could keep those vending machines stocked, so that they are making the positive impact that they need to. They've also funded this year learning opportunities for students at 31 of our schools through the Orchestra Music Library, after-school tutoring, bridging the gap for the lowest quartile in reading and math at Jewett School for the Arts. They provided funding to replace multiple iMac computers for a television production class to certify students earning industry certifications. And funding this year also was used to update appliances related to items for a transition class working on independent living skills at Lakeland High School. So during the past few years, support like this has totaled just over $172,000. $172,000. Additionally, they provide 2 scholarships each year to seniors graduating from Polk County Public High Schools. So about in the last 8 years alone, they've done over $200,000 of support. So I not only wanted to thank them here in front of you this evening, but introduce you to Courtney Berry, because she's going to be a very good friend to us in Polk County for a long time, we hope. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you all here in Polk County Schools for welcoming Suncoast Credit Union to the area. As the executive director of the foundation, Suncoast and all we do, we love the community. It's a part of our DNA. We empower our employees out in the community to volunteer. We don't just donate our funds, but we donate our time to the initiatives that you all have in the community. And since our foundation was incepted in 1990, we've donated more than $44 million to educational initiatives. So we are proud to be here and to support you all, our educators and our students, for all you do in the community. So thank you for having us again. We appreciate you.
At this time, I'd like to invite Rob Davis, Assistant Superintendent for Support Services.
I have one more.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. All right, Nancy Dodd's coming forward. And again, one of my favorite things to do, introducing another partner, and Duke Energy. And Nancy is their Government and Community Relations Manager and has been in Polk County for a very long time, which is one of the fun things about working with Nancy, because she is local. She probably takes a more vested interest in visiting and participating in the work that Duke Energy does within Polk County Public Schools. They've been doing work specifically on the east side of Polk County since 2006, and this year their grant funding focused on energy or engineering, and it benefited 4th through 12th grade students. 14 schools received grants ranging in amounts from $1,100 to $3,000. Duke Energy projects were diverse in many ways. Students have been studying fabrication of prosthetic hands, designing and building underwater ROVs, ecological systems and biodiversity, using drones for mapping, renewable energy, and more. As part of the grant funding, schools were also able to participate in engineering-focused professional development. An additional group of 13 teachers came and had training, and then they participated in engineering submersibles training that they took back with the kits to their classrooms. So students got to do things like engineering prosthetic tails, rockets and rovers, as well as designing alarm clocks and solar ovens. Pretty cool stuff. Duke Energy generously donated $45,000 this school year to make these grants possible, then gave an additional $100,000 to McLaughlin Middle School. So Duke Energy has invested over $725,000 in Polk County education since the early 2000s. So again, I'd love to thank Duke Energy, to thank Nancy, and everything that they do for our community and for our students. We appreciate you very, very much. And we have a certificate for you as well. Did you want to say anything? I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
I just want to say I'm Polk proud, okay? Sometimes I'm Polk, sometimes I'm Poke, so I'm very proud of both. And I just want to say thank you to Susan. She is amazing. She is the best steward of our money, and she's creative, and she does so much for the county. And I just want to say thank you. You're wonderful.
We're good? Okay. Mr. Rob Davis, Assistant Superintendent of Support Services, please come forward for recognition of Love the Bus Month.
Love the bus.
It's very bright up here.
Why aren't you working for me? There we go. It is. I'm dangerous, especially when it comes to computers. So I want to thank you for this opportunity to the honorable board members our superintendent, Mr. Hyde, our general counsel, Mr. Bridges, and our wonderful Miss Elizabeth and Mrs. Wendy, who make everything happen behind the scenes. We know what happens. We know who does the work. So, Love the Bus Month is an opportunity for us to basically recognize the professionals that dedicate their life to the safety of transporting students to and from their home. So recognition goes a long ways. We have schools, students, school administrators, district administrators, superintendents, and school board members by allowing us to do this to recognize those individuals that make a difference for the close to 50,000 students that we transport on a day-to-day basis, not including the field trips, the athletic events, and numerous other things. Just some facts and figures for Polk County. If we were fully staffed, which we will get there soon after this board meeting with the raise in starting wages, we would have 510 buses transporting around 50,000 students to 121 different school sites. We have 2,700 bus routes and 9,200 bus stops. We drive approximately 53,000 miles a day, and that's an annual mileage of around 9.6 million. That equates to driving around the equator more than 2 times. So there are many hands behind the scene, and we are all in this together. Today we have a few of those hands that are behind the scenes and some of those that are out with the students on a day-to-day basis that we'll introduce shortly. So this is where it starts, our training department. Our training and recruiting department, they're out there knocking on doors, going to job fairs, going to festivals. They're out there doing the work. It starts with our leader, Crystal Robinson, who's our training specialist. She has a wonderful group of drivers that are all trained to evaluate drivers that are new and go through a rigorous process to make sure that before we put them behind the wheel of a school bus, they are ready to roll. And Herschel Pipkins, who is our recruiting specialist, bringing drivers in, and word of mouth from anyone in this group. If you have someone that drives a church bus, anything, we want to talk with them, because I said one time if they could fog a mirror, but I don't mean that. But really, truly, it is a rewarding job, and you'll hear some of that later. So our transportation management team, area managers, and our routing technicians, these are some pictures of them. They do a tremendous job day in, day out. They're taking phone calls from schools, parents, public, you name it. They're also making sure that they're putting the students on the right bus stops, and so on and so forth. The routing technicians are in the middle of what we call FTE or FEFP, and they are verifying 50,000 records to make sure that we balance. And when we balance, we get the full amount of funding that we can get as a district. Our dispatchers, they are smiling when they start their day. We have 3 dispatchers. At one time, we had 1, and they were monitoring 7 bands. We added 2, and then they were monitoring 9 bands, and so we eventually got to 3 dispatchers who are managing 3 bands. Not only are they managing 3 bands, they're also managing telephone calls that are coming in. They start their day by 5:30 a.m., and they end their day after 6:30 p.m. They have a break in between, and they're smiling when they come in. I gotta go back one. Oh, where did my picture go? And they're smiling when they leave. We'll put it that way. So here's our division support: fuel station attendants, couriers, headed by our director, Scott Reeves, his assistant, Sheila Keith, and the senior analyst, Amanda Gregory, our fuel station attendants, and our courier services who make things happen, bringing in fuel. We consume about 10,000 gallons of diesel fuel a day, which is mind-boggling. So these gentlemen are out taking those fuel loads in, and our couriers are doing internal mail, external mail, anything that you can think of putting in courier, they're transporting and getting it to the right spot. Our service centers, we have 3. This is our Bartow Service Center. It's called the John Sonny Powell Transportation Service Center. He was a long-time transportation professional in the school district and was my mentor's mentor, who was Fred Murphy. This is our Service Center 2, what we commonly call it as our Tenor Rock shop. It's right close to Tenor Rock High School. And then this is our Service Center 3, which is called the Dwayne D. Wilson Service Center, and it's located off Sergeant Mary Campbell Way in Lake Wales. And these technicians are certified to do DOE inspections and make sure that this is the safest means of transportation on the ground. The school bus is the safest means of ground transportation there is. Our vehicle services management team, headed by Don Stevenson, our director. He's also our district liaison for the sidewalk and the lighting committee. And our 4 safety specialists that do anything from looking at loading zones with school administrators, how to, for bus loading zones, car loading zones, to working accidents, and everything in between. If it hazardous walking, they do it all. And they're on call. When a bus is on the road, we have buses on the road all hours. They're on call. If some incident happens or there is an accident, they go out to it. So our support services admin team, I have to say, Shauna Lastinger is amazing. She's my administrative assistant, and she's amazing. Mrs. Alejandra is our receptionist. She's fielding phone calls in like crazy. And Mrs. Angela Goddard, who is our network coordinator, has really brought a balance to our team with technology that we needed, and works very closely with Ms. Basco and her team. So now let's get to our stars. Whoop, whoop. This thing can get tricky. It goes a lot slower. So here are our stars. These are our bus drivers, bus attendants, or some of our bus drivers and bus attendants, some of our area managers, some of our office staff. Here are our heroes, the ones that we are transporting to and from school day in, day out. Again, look at them. They're smiling, actually smiling, and that's in the morning. That's awesome. When you have them smiling in the morning, we're doing something good. Again, more of our bus drivers and bus attendants. And so this is a great picture to end. You know, we are on the road before the sun rises, and we're off the road after the sun sets. And I'm honored to be able to come up here and privileged to be able to recognize these professionals. And thank you for your time. I'd like to introduce the staff members that are here. I'd like to introduce Nicey Olens. Miss Nicey, if you'll stand up. She's a bus attendant in Area 9. She's been with our district for 17 years, over 17 years. When asked, what she loves about her position, she said, without hesitation, the love of the students and the appreciation she feels from them. She teaches them manners, respect, and is very protective over them. She loves the students as if they were own. Our parks clerk, Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett has been with the school district for 16 years. He's one of 6 parks clerks who make sure we have all of the items that we need to make sure that the buses are rolling and the support fleet are rolling and not sitting. Michael makes sure that he keeps the inventory well stocked. Michael enjoys his time off, the school holidays, and grilling out with his family and friends. And then Tim, our fuel station attendant, Tim Baston. Tim has been a 30-year educator. He's started in Michigan, spent a lot of time in Georgia, was an AP in Georgia, if I recall. District level director in Georgia, and he is now one of our service station attendants. He moved to Florida and is continuing to give back to students, so we appreciate him very much. All right. Unfortunately, the vehicle services technician that I was going to recognize was unable to be here tonight. His name was Jeff Green. He's been a school district employee for over 32 years. This is his last week with us. He is going on to a new chapter in his life. He has done amazing things in our auto body shop, bus body shop painting. He's a tremendous painter, and we're going to have some tough shoes to fill when Jeff is gone. And last but not least, bus driver Mrs. Shirley Welling. Mrs. Shirley Welling has been with the district as a bus driver for 50 years. She started on May 16th, 1974. She first began to drive her so that she could have the same schedule as her 2 boys. She said the money wasn't great, but the benefits were. So to supplement her income, she opened up an upholstery shop. And through the years, she has seen a lot of changes. I can only imagine the changes that you've seen over the years. She is one of the, well, I won't say that because we're not there yet. She's working with us on a pilot, so I'll say that. She loves working with students, and after several years, they come up and they remember her because she has made an impact on their lives. And I'd like to give Ms. Shirley an opportunity to come up and address the board if she'd like to say any words. Come on.
Well, there's not much to say. This 50 years have really gone by quickly. I do enjoy my children. They're mine. I look after them as they're my children. I have students of mine that I've transported that come up and they'll say, do you remember me? I said, do you know how many students I've transported over the years? And he wasn't a troublemaker. There's the first ones that you remember are the troublemakers. You remember their names and everything like that. But it's been very rewarding to me. I would like to thank the school board and all my co-workers for their support. And we work well together. And it's been a blessing to me with the children and the co-workers and everything, and I do appreciate and thank God that I am able to serve these children because I do drive for Karen Siegel, which has students like the young man that was here. And they can teach them to do things that we don't even think about, that we take for granted. These teachers and paras and these special needs schools, they have a very blessed job, but it's difficult. It's very difficult. And to work with them, and you have children of your own that are, they're fine. And then you appreciate your own children more when you work with these children. I'd also like to thank my family for supporting me. I was able to stay with my young kids. Now I have great grands, so that are riding the buses. So, but I'd like to thank my family and my husband for supporting me. And I'm 50 and counting. I have no intentions of retiring.
We're going to get some pictures real quick. So we're going to get some pictures real quick, but one thing that each of you should have received, this is something that we gave all of our bus drivers, bus attendants, and support staff. It says, "You light up our lives." If it doesn't work, it is under warranty, so just get it back to me. Happy Love the Bus Month. So we'd like to get a picture with Miss Shirley by herself, right? Is that the way it was? And then her husband can join her, and then we'll bring the whole team up, okay? Does that sound good? So you follow his directions and
while they're taking pictures, I just wanted to say, Rob indicated in the beginning, go ahead, of the presentation, that all the kids are smiling. The reason they're smiling is because of folks like her and our other bus drivers that are the first faces, the first people that they see getting on the bus in the morning on their way to school, and the last person they see at the end of the day. So we are truly blessed, and thank you so much, bus drivers, for all that you do. You're amazing people, and we love you and appreciate you. Thank you.
I am. Thank you all. We had area managers that came out to support their staff, and thank you again for this time to recognize the Love the Bus Month. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And our last presenter tonight, good luck, Jessica, after that, is Ms. Jessica Anderson, our Assistant Director for Career Technical Education. She's coming forward to recognize and honor Agra Fest. I was there yesterday.
Good evening. I am here to thank both the board and the superintendent for supporting Agra Fest. This is our year 35 of Agra Fest, 35 years in a row. Agra Fest is our elementary outreach. We work with University of Florida IFAS Extension Office in Bartow, as well as Polk County Farm Bureau to put this event together, with also our community partners, where we can bring in 4th grade students and educate them about the commodities and the agricultural industry that are in Polk County. We work with the Florida Forest Service, our local citrus growers. Mosaic comes in and teaches about phosphate. And small farms, beef cattle, they have 6 rotations total. So we're really excited to have the support of the board and the superintendent to continue this. It's been this is day 2 of Agra Fest. It's been a long couple of days, but so far, after 2 days, we've had 1,129 4th graders come through Agra Fest. And by March 8th, next Friday, we will have seen over 5,000 4th graders at this event. So it's 235 classes of students that will come through. And we do offer it as well next Friday. We have a private charter and homeschool day to support all types of learning in Polk County and teach them about agricultural education. So just wanted to thank you for your support. Switching over to my Polk County Farm Bureau hat. Polk County Farm Bureau wanted to thank you from the board as well, and so they provided some strawberries and some information about the location and dates in case you want to come and visit. So we invite you to come and check out the rotations. We have about 25 to 30 busloads of children that show up every morning at about 9:30, 9:45, and then we get them through the 3 rotations, and they're gone by noon so they can get back to school for lunch. But if you have some time in the next 2 weeks, we'd love to have you down and check it out. So thank you again for your support, and we look forward to seeing you.
So before you try and run off, so, Jessica and Ms. Anderson deserves a lot of credit. She has single-handedly worked with the state of Florida to create an agriculture curriculum at the elementary school level. As you know, Willow Oak is our pilot program where they have a greenhouse now, but we're expanding that into other schools. In fact, she can't go anywhere on an elementary campus without a principal chasing her saying, we want ag on our campus, because it's a great opportunity. Our children need to learn where their food comes from, but they also need to learn, and there's a lot of valuable life lessons when children interact with small animals and learn to be responsible, learn how to care, learn empathy, those types of things. And so there's a lot of power behind this. But Jessica's also responsible. We had an idea, a crazy idea, a number of years ago for a property that we own down in Homeland, and we now call it the Homeland Agriculture Project. The board's been well aware of this. We received state funding to assist us with retrofitting and renovating that site so that we can run field trips throughout the year. It is incredibly important as it is for us to teach literacy and numeracy and the other skills. It's just as important for us to make sure that the children growing up here in Polk County also maintain a connection to the history and the legacy and the future of agri-science and agriculture here in Polk County. And so for us, we're very excited. We're excited that the legislature saw value in that program and provided the funding for us to renovate that facility. And we are currently underway. There's an item before you this evening, later on tonight. But I wanted to give Jessica a lot of credit because she works incredibly hard to support this process in our school district from pre-K to 12th grade. And you can't go anywhere and meet her because she's at, we just finished up the Polk County Fair where all of our students showed their animals. And then on the heels of that, she has the current agriculture expo over the next 2 weeks. And then immediately after that, she has another event. And yet she shows up every day with the same smile on her face. Mm-hmm. She's absolutely amazing. She's infectious. She has a passion for this. And because of her and because of people like her, she's able to instill that passion in our teachers and our students, and that legacy will be something that she leaves behind, that she will be remembered for years to come. She has a long time left with us, but I just wanted to give Jessica a lot of credit because she is absolutely amazing, and we're very fortunate to have her here in Polk County leading this initiative for us. So thank you, Jessica.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you can take one with just her and then take one with the kids. We've got extra film. It's digital. Got to go to the 1 hour film.
You didn't know. That's awesome.
Thank you. That concludes special recognitions this evening.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Hyde. Just a quick note, thank you to everyone who stopped in tonight to take part and join us. So this is a good time if you're not taking part in the rest of the meeting, if you want to transition, now would be a good time to do that. If not, we will move on to our next item on the agenda, which is public comments on agenda items. So before we begin that, I would like to welcome the public and then go over our public comment process and opportunities for this evening. Basically, you'll have 3 opportunities for public comment. The first will be for items on this evening's agenda to be voted upon. As always, during this time, comments will be limited to those items on the agenda. And then secondly, we do have a public hearing tonight as well, so you can then bring your comments forward in regards to those public hearing topics. And then lastly, at the end of the meeting, we'll have an additional opportunity for public comment on those items that are not on this evening's agenda. So to register to speak, as always, community members, you must fill out that speaker card in the lobby prior to the meeting. All speakers will be given 3 minutes of time. The light will then turn yellow when you have 1 minute left, and you'll hear the beep when your time is concluded. All comments should be directed to myself as the board chair. As a reminder, public comments are an opportunity for us to hear your thoughts, and we're here to listen. And this is not a question and answer time tonight. However, if you are seeking additional information, I encourage you to contact us. We'll definitely try to get back to you as quickly as we can, or the superintendent's office outside of board meetings will be happy to have those deeper conversations as well. So the first person that I would like to call up is Glenda White, and if you can come forward, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And then on deck, we have Bobby Dees. So if you can start with your name and address before you speak for the record, and we'll appreciate that.
Happy Children's Week, Polk School Board. I'm Glenda White of Winter Haven. I want to discuss Consent Agenda H, Subject 1, the purchase of the tutoring software. I see that taxpayers are purchasing another tutoring program for grades K-5. First, I'd like to know how many tutoring programs there are in place at this time for K-5 students. I'd also like to find out how much the school board is spending in total for these programs and how many kids are participating and what is the cost per child. So I hope to seek that information out pretty quick. Another question that I would really like to know about is how are we measuring the effectiveness of the programs? I would request from the board that upon acceptance of this latest tutoring program, that the public could receive possibly by attachment at the first board meeting following the required report to the source of the grant in Tallahassee. Something that we can look at. How are the kids doing on this program? Is this something we want to spend money on for the next year if it's not reaching, hopefully, a goal that we've set? So I'm asking the board to please account for the multiple millions that we're spending for these programs because we don't know if they're really helping our kids or not, but we are putting a lot of money into this. Second, I'd like to address Consent Agenda O, Subject 1, the purchase of the books. I believe we had another recent large purchase of books in December. I feel like the board has shown that it can't be trusted. As long as illegal and pornographic books are kept in school libraries, I believe this school board and the superintendent condone their presence, and they violate Florida law, and they don't fail to inform, or they don't inform parents that the books are in Polk schools. So I'm asking the board to please adopt an opt-in policy for all books. If there is something questionable in a book, please let parents out of the dark. Let them know that these books that may be questionable or illegal are in their school library, and give them the chance to, even if they knowingly consent, if they are okay with their kids, let them knowingly consent. It's wrong to keep them in the dark. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White. Mr. Dees, you are up, and then on deck we have Jim Tackett.
Good evening. My name is Bobby Dees. I live in Winter Haven, Florida, and I want to discuss Consent Agenda O, Subject 1, book purchases. I'm sad and disappointed to say that our school board has created an atmosphere of distrust between themselves and a public that loves and cares for the children of Polk County. I'm concerned that the book purchases that this school board will surely approve need review by the public. It is clear that this school board and left-leaning review committees choose to keep books on school library shelves that are not only offensive but harmful to kids, not to mention they break Florida law. The book Red Hood, for instance, which contains a pornographic description of a sexual encounter between a female and a male, is currently in the following high schools: Davenport High, District 2, Lori Cunningham; Auburndale High, District 7, Lisa Miller; Bartow High, District 3, Rick Nolte; Frostproof High, District 6, Justin Sharpless; George Jenkins High, District 3, Rick Nolte; Haines City High, District 2, Lori Cunningham; Lake Gibson, District 7, Lisa Miller; Lake Region, District 6, Justin Sharpless; Ridge Community High, District 2, Lori Cunningham; Tenor Rock High, District 7, Lisa Miller; and lastly, Winter Haven High, District 4, Sarah Beth Reynolds. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. We have Mr. Tackett next, and then on deck we have Dolly DePagter.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Yeah, my name is Jim Taggett. I'm a Polk County resident, taxpayer, and a voter. And I'm here to speak on Consent Agenda O, Subject 1. And I'd kind of like to congratulate you all, except for I'm leaving Mr. Nolte and Mr. Sharpless out of this. Congratulations, because they haven't really been here this long. It's more for the rest of you all, including Superintendent Hyde, okay? You're very close to achieving the distinction of making Polk County schools the worst in the state of Florida. There are probably several reasons for it, and one is these books. Spending this time and energy and money on these books. For example, there's Jack of Hearts and Other Parts, which is in Davenport High School; Tricks, which is in Lake Region High School; All Boys Aren't Blue, which is in Haines City, Davenport, Kathleen, and Tenor Rock. All of these books contain graphic descriptions of homosexual encounters. So my question to y'all is, what do books such as these contribute to the education of our school children? It seems to me the money and the time and the effort would be better spent elsewhere, educating the children, okay? Like Miss Jessica that was just here with the agricultural program. Good place to spend some money. Maybe teaching the kids math, science, how to write, penmanship, things like that. So anyway, you seem to have a mission of getting these books out in front of the children. And like I said, I don't know what purpose it serves. We just had Black History Month, and they had the children here with their essays for Dr. King. It's a good thing. But I'm wondering, how many classes were there on Frederick Douglass, Bass Reeves, Colin Powell, Dr. Ben Carson, or Clarence Thomas? Every one of these men came from very humble backgrounds, and they rose to a high level of success through their own work, effort. Frederick Douglass and Bass Reeves were born slaves. Frederick Douglass escaped twice. He was caught once. He became advisors to multiple presidents. Okay, Dr. Ben Carson grew up in the hood. He became a world-renowned pediatric neurosurgeon. Chew on that. That's little children's brains. He operated on them. He was one of the best in the world. Okay, why not teach the children about that? Okay, what they can achieve just with their own hard work and their initiative. And anyway, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taggett. Ms. DePagter, you're up.
Hello, school board members. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight about the book purchases. My name is Dolly DePagter, and since 1999, I have been a sales rep and educational consultant for various book companies. In other words, for 25 years, I have sold books to schools, libraries, and colleges in Florida and beyond. It is my experience that Polk County has the most comprehensive book approval process in the state. It is multi-layered, expansive, and quite frankly, redundant and time-consuming. In my opinion, it's a waste of time and resources. A waste not because a well-vetted book is a waste of time, but because the book lists originate with a qualified, educated, and well-trained Florida-certified media specialist. That alone should be enough. But since Polk County has the multi-layered approval process in place, which includes that qualified, educated, and well-trained media specialist compiling a list using professional reviews, industry leveling standards, and publisher recommendations, then a school-based committee with community members approve the list, then the principal approves the list, then the district media services manager approves the list, then you guys, the school board, approves the list, then there's a 30-day cool-off period when the public can view and object to anything on the list. Wow. That's a multi-layered and intensive, well-vetted book list. Then, if a parent objects to any of those well-vetted books, they can still opt out of their child reading the book. So when you listen to these book challenges today and in future board meetings, please remember these books are the most vetted books in the state of Florida. That these objections are coming from community members who want their opinion to overrule all the layers of professionals and other community members. If Polk County's mission really is to provide a high-quality education for all students, it needs to provide books that, one, appeal to all students, two, have some books each student can relate to and identify with, three, expose children to different cultures, opinions, and perspectives of the world around them. And when you allow children to read a variety of authors, genres, subjects, opinions, cultures, styles, and perspectives, they learn to think critically. They learn to evaluate and synthesize all their information to make informed opinions and become wise citizens. So the book list before you are well vetted and should be approved without hesitation or concern. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, board members. That concludes our public comment on agenda items. Now we need to move down the list here to approve 3 sets of minutes. So you can see the first set of minutes is from the January 23rd, 2024 school board meeting. And then the chair will now entertain a motion to accept the January 23rd school board meeting minutes as written.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so Ms. Cunningham made the motion and Ms. Wyatt seconded. Is there any discussion around this? All right, I'd like to call for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Now, the second set of minutes is for the January 23rd, 2024 work session meeting. The chair will now entertain a motion to accept those meetings for January 23rd, the work session meeting minutes as written. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
All right, Ms. Wyatt made the motion. I'm looking for a second. Second. And Mr. Sharpless seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, those opposed? And that motion carries. The third set of minutes is for the February 13th, 2024 work session meeting. And the chair now will entertain a motion to accept that February 13th work session meeting minutes as written. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Miller made the motion, and Ms. Wyatt made the second. Any discussion? Very good. Seeing none, I will call for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
And those opposed? And the motion carries. Okay. Now we're moving down to our consent agenda. and basically the approval of today's consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the February 27th, 2024 consent agenda as printed. Do I have a motion?
Second.
And a second. So we've got Ms. Fields that made the motion and Ms. Wyatt seconded. Any discussion on our consent agenda? Very good. Seeing none, I will now call for a vote. Those in favor?
Mr. Chair, I apologize. Earlier today, I was asked to have staff here, and since it did come up during public participation, our Chief Academic Officer is also here. He'll come down and address and basically provide you with a summary of what the science of reading, literacy, and tutoring is, the SORT program. So if you'll please.
Perfect.
He or Ms. McKenzie, please.
Thank
Looks
you,
like they'll both come.
Superintendent Hyde. Good evening.
Good evening.
The Science of Reading and Literacy Tutoring Grant was a grant that we applied for. We are amending this on Thursday. I have an appointment with federal programs, and one of the stipulations of this grant is that curriculum, resources, and materials necessary to implement explicit and systematic instructional strategies is one of the criteria for what we can use it for. So we're working to amend it with the state to be able to better support the interventions that are currently in place in reading for students, K-5.
What we're using the money for the SORT grant. I'm sorry.
There you go.
I feel like I'm leaning over too much for this. For the SORT grant is not like a duplication of through the varsity tutors, which was approved earlier on this year. This is to be used for the intervention within the classrooms.
We're talking about corrective reading, reading mastery, and several others that are already in place and currently being expanded across the school district. So again, this is not additional layers being added. So I appreciate the opportunity to provide that clarification.
All right, very good. Thank you, Superintendent. Any other questions, board members, on this while your staff is here? Our staff? All right. Thank you all so much. All right, so we do have a motion and a second on the floor at this point. No further discussion as I see in the speakers list. I'd like to call for a vote now at this point. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And the motion carries. All right. Next, we come to our action agenda for this evening. And our first item on the agenda is P1, which is renaming Sleepy Hill Middle Library in honor of Ann Tankston, as presented during our February 13th work session. Ms. Fields, would you like to make a motion on this?
I would like to make a motion, but before I do, I would like to read a little bit about Miss Tankston. I'm very excited about the opportunity to present to the board approval of the naming of the Media Center in honor of Miss Ann Tankston. And to your agenda, you have a request from Principal Ms. Danae Clark wanting to name the Media Center in honor of Mrs. Tankston. And this was presented to the SAC committee. It was a unanimous decision, so everyone on campus, they're in agreement with this. And today is almost like a reunion day. I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience. I see our former superintendent, Sherry Nickel. I see Miss Anna DeCesare. I think Miss Charlene. I see Miss Grice. I see so many people. And some I can't see because you're very much hidden. But we are so happy that you're here today to Miss Barnes. Now I can see you. Miss Pat Barnes. We're so happy that you guys are here to celebrate Miss Ann. Miss Ann Tankston, what can we say about you? Mrs. Tankston has had a stellar career while with our school district. She has accomplished many things, and just want to name a few. One of the things that we talked about when we were in work session was that because of Mrs. Tankston's vast wealth of knowledge, she served as a stable force that directly assisted 4 superintendents in their transitions. That would be Dr. Gail McKenzie, the late Dr. Gail McKenzie, to Dr. Sherry Nickel, who's in the audience today, Dr. Sherry Nickel to Dr. John Stewart, Dr. John Stewart to Catherine Leroy, and Mrs. Catherine Leroy to Mrs. Jacqueline Bird. And Superintendent Hyatt said he felt a little bit slighted, Ms. Tankson, because you weren't here when he came. Okay, all right, y'all work that out. And then from there, she served as the Associate Superintendent, School-Based Operations, and she was the whiz with the class size amendment. Any issues, we all know to go to Ms. Ann, and she could work it out for our good. She was respected by the state. She was very much involved with the reading plan for the state of Florida, and senior coordinator, reading first program, principal, assistant principal, guidance counselor, teacher, you name it, and Ms. Tankson can claim it. And after retirement, Ms. Tankson was approached and agreed to return to the district to serve as a consultant, supporting in schools at the elementary, middle, and high school levels for several years. And they kept saying, please come back, Ms. Tankson, please come back. And Ms. Tankson finally said, I'm going to go home and sit on the porch. And I guess that's what she's been doing with her husband, Mr. John. So, Ms. Tankson, words cannot express the magnitude of thankfulness for your service to our school district, what you have done to help mold and shape our students and our staff and our families. And we're just so thankful for you. And Mr. John, we thank you for allowing her to put in all the extra time and the energy that I know sometimes you probably wanted to say, Polk County Public Schools, go somewhere, but you didn't. At least we didn't hear it anyway. So at this point in time, I would like to make a motion that we approve the naming of the Sleepy Hill Middle School to the Ann Tankson Media, I don't know why I'm saying middle school, to the Ann Tankson Media Center.
That is great news. Thank you, Ms. Fields, very much. So we have a motion on the floor. Could I get a second on that as well? All right, so Ms. Wyatt has seconded that. Any other discussion, board members? Really appreciate that presentation, Ms. Fields. Thank you for giving that context. All right, so I'd like to call a vote for this on board members. We'll call a vote here, and those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And that motion carries. Congratulations.
Oh, my. Thank you, Ms. Fields, school board members, Superintendent Hyatt, and Principal Clark, and everyone else who played a role in this special honor for me. I thank you. Those of you who know me know that I never, ever expected to be rewarded for my work nor my services, because I really consider myself a servant leader, and that's what servant leaders do. They serve. So I tell you, this was a surprise to me, a big surprise. And when I walked in and saw everybody that I knew, I go, well, my gosh, what is going on? So I feel so honored, and I'm so appreciative. And I can assure you that I will always find some way to serve, because that's what I do. Thank you.
Ms. Tankson, we need to take a picture.
Yeah.
Pictures.
I know.
You guys know I hate pictures.
So we are
Sorry.
right here. No.
Yeah, look. Miss Barnes, she's talking to you.
Good evening. Well done. Thanks for your service. Thanks for your service. All right, board members, we are now moving down to P2. This is the half-cent sales tax oversight committee appointment. Board members, I would like to make a motion that we approve Brian Stevens to the half-cent sales tax oversight committee.
Second.
All right, so I've made the motion to approve Brian Stevens, and Mr. Sharpless made the second. Any discussion? And if no discussion, I would like to read his bio into record for us tonight. So you should see that attachment there. Brian is a lifelong Lakeland resident and a graduate of Harrison Arts Center. He grew up with an appreciation for our public schools, both as a student and as a son of a lifelong ESE teacher and facilitator. His wife, Tiana, is a reading and theater teacher at George Jenkins High School, and they have 5 children progressing through our schools right now, 3 in elementary, 1 in middle, and 1 in high school. Brian's professional career encompasses leadership roles in the retail, financial services, and currently the logistics industry. He is currently Director of Transportation Brokerage at Saddle Creek. He has served our community as a board member with various organizations, including Platform Art, Talbot House Ministries, Manufacturing and Supply Chain Alliance of Mid-Florida, and Catholic Charities of Central Florida, serving 9 counties. He has also served on the School Advisory Council for Cleveland Court for several years and previously served as SAC for Southwest Middle School. So there is your appointee that I'm bringing forward for the half-cent sales tax oversight committee. I would like to go ahead and call for a vote on this appointee. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? And the motion carries. All right, and next we will go into a public hearing. I now open the public hearing. The first order of business is any comments on public hearing agenda items. We will now begin with public comments in that portion of our public hearing for those who have registered. And just as before, all speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak. The light will turn yellow when you have 1 minute left, and you'll hear a beep when your sound is concluded. All comments should be directed to myself and as the board chair. And as a reminder, public comments are an opportunity for you to express your thoughts and your comments. This is not a question and answer session. However, if you are seeking additional information, again, as I mentioned before, please reach out to us in the superintendent's office, and we'll be happy to further that conversation. So at this point, the first person I would like to call up is Pam Barnes. So if you can come forward. And then on deck, we have Robert Goodman. And if you could, please state your name and address for the record. So we have Pam Barnes, Robert Goodman, and then after that would be Beverly Hartley. So if you wanted to take your places, would be great.
I thought I was with the other batch, so sorry. Good evening, Mr. Hyde and board members. My name is Pamela Barnes. I am the library media specialist at Boswell Elementary School. I'm here tonight to urge you to approve the purchase of all library books for the current purchase window. As a media specialist, I, along with my peers, have done our due diligence by following the outline process the district has created and implemented. I have chosen books based on my students' interests and needs. I've read reviews on the books. I've met with my school committee to discuss the books, to go over the interest levels, to go over the grade levels of the books. I've presented the documents to my principal for his approval. Also, any of these books that are approved tonight the parents will have full access to see these books and opt out before they are ever put on my library shelf in my library. The final step is tonight when these books are presented to you. My hope is that you will take into consideration all the time, the knowledge of over 80 Florida certified educational media specialists in this district and approve the purchases. Thank you.
All right. Robert Goodman is up, and then next we have Beverly Hartley.
Good evening. I'm Robert Goodman from Lakeland. I wanted to share some deep concerns with Policy 2522, both the existing and proposed policy. According to Florida Statute 1006-28, any material used in a school library classroom that is in violation of Florida Statute 847012 does not meet the criteria to be available in our schools. The school district shall discontinue use of material for any grade level or age group for which the content is inappropriate or unsuitable. 847012 describes in detail pornographic and harmful content to minors. It includes sexual content, intercourse, deviant sexual intercourse, bestiality, masturbation, sadomasochistic abuse, whether in writing, magazine, publication, motion picture, or movie, specifically mentioned human genitalia in a state of simulation or arousal, masturbation, intercourse, sodomy, cunnilingus, fellatio, or any excretory function or representation thereof. That is all in our schools, all of it. In the last 2 years, many books have been challenged, yet remain available, that contain pedophilia, rape, bestiality, graphic detailed writings, and sexual intercourse, including traditional sex, oral, and anal. To my knowledge, the board has never made a decision on any book since I've been speaking for you for over 2 years. Kimberly Moore from Lakeland Now recently wrote an article in which she doxed 2 ladies who challenged books, and she said Polk County Public Schools are going to spend $25,000 on book challenges this year. She said the 2 ladies challenged at least 5 books in 10 high schools. Question, if a book is challenged, if one book is challenged, then it's in multiple schools. Why is that being counted as multiple challenges? It's not in other Florida counties. You know how much money it really takes for the district to solve this problem? None. All you have to do is, when the superintendent gets a challenge, if he provided you the language that's in the book that is provided with every challenge, you could look at it, and I'll give you an example of a book that was screened and audited and went through the finest process ever. There's a book, Lucky, and it says, that's tough to read. That's in 2 of our high schools, Lakeland Senior and Tenorock. This clearly violates Florida statute, and it doesn't have to cost anything. If you saw that language, that clearly you don't need to buy a box of that book and send it to a bunch of review committees. You could just remove it. Please do the right thing. It's not providing age-appropriate content. Thank you.
All right, so next we have Beverly Hartley, and on deck we have Kim Davis.
So to continue with what Robert was saying, what does our county do? We buy those books and we provide them to the book review committee. Who's on the book review committee? We have children on those book review committees. Here we're having these book challenges to decide whether a book is appropriate for a child, and we have children on them. I know this personal because I went to one of the book reviews in Mulberry. And there sat 2 children, 1 parent, and the rest were staff. The committees have voted to keep almost every single book that we've challenged, okay? And that's regardless of what the content was or the statute violations. The review committees are not told what those statutes are and what the violations are. That parent certainly wasn't. Some teachers have even reviewed extremely graphic books and have refused to even check the boxes on the review form. So I ask you, how many challenge forms have you guys seen? Have you seen them? I have. Have you asked for them? We have. We know what's on them. We've been to those meetings. We've seen them. And we've asked for the copies. So why haven't you asked for them? If you haven't seen them, why haven't you asked for them? We stand up here. Do you think we want to come here, board meeting after board meeting, and read books like that to you? It's horrible. Let me tell you, I've seen the content of multiple books. They're not just a couple of little bad words here and there. It's filth. It is complete and utter filth. I'm shocked that the school board that I worked at for 34 years would allow that type of content, that you, people that I know are, or at least believe to be good people, would allow that content for my grandchildren to have access to. You are legally held responsible for those statutes, the board members, not the superintendent. He is your employee, not the other way around. Do your job.
Thank you. We have Kim Davis, and then Pam Luce is on deck.
Hi, good morning, good evening, oh my goodness. So, well, I want to start by saying I appreciate the book dealer that came and spoke and talked about how amazing our process is here in Polk County. The problem is it's not actually happening. I mean, how many books have you all read personally? How the principal, it goes from this person to, and everybody's like, oh, well, I trust their judgment, I trust their judgment, I trust their judgment. But nobody's reading the stuff. I mean, obviously this is not according to state statute, and you would know it if you actually read it and then voted against it. We are not banning books. Everybody in the world is free to buy all of the smut they want out of their own pocket, not out of taxpayer dollars. It's very simple. I mean, you're not putting Playboy in the schools, are you? Or, you know, what was that book, 50 Shades of Grey? I mean, no. So why are these books in there? It doesn't matter if people are having sex 50 times or 2 times. It still shouldn't be there. So I'm also here to discuss the timeline that is in 25-22. The wording is horrible. It does not lay out proper timelines for people that do go through appeals. I'm asking that you remove the policy vote for until you can, from the agenda, from tonight's agenda, so that you can rewrite the wording to make the timeline involved in the appeals process more clear. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Luce, you are next.
Good evening. I feel so incredibly blessed to be here tonight when Ann Tankson was honored. Ms. Tankson and I used to work very closely together and did a lot of boundaries. We even worked on the controlled open enrollment. We put the first policy together. We worked on that policy. And when Neola first came here, I was selected from the facilities division to be the one to review policies for facilities. So I'm quite familiar with the policy process and understand it. This policy that you have tonight, I don't know how well you've read it, but I've gone over it quite extensively, and it's incomplete. It's not. There's still some spelling errors in there. There's some other things that need to be really looked at. There's the state statute says that the process for book challenges is to be clearly spelled out in the policy. It is not clearly spelled out. There should be timelines in there. Someone, a layperson, should be able to read that and say, oh, I understand, this is what I need to do. and it's not that way. It is still very confusing for a lay person in particular. Other thing I want to talk about is that we still have boundaries for our children. They can't buy a pack of cigarettes until they're 18. They can't buy, I'm sorry, 21. It's 21. They can't buy alcohol until they're 21. They can't buy a Playboy, which, let me tell you, is tame compared to what we have in our school system. If you have not seen them, you need to see them. It makes me absolutely sick whenever I open one of those books. They have to be 18 to buy that. Now, they can buy these books when they're 18 if they want. That's fine. Nobody's trying to ban books. We're just trying to protect our children from anything that we have control over what is in front of them. And I know I've heard the books compared, well, you know, they've got social media. They can see all that. They can go see that. But you know what? If I'm in a boat that's sinking and I have some control and I can plug the holes in that boat for what's in front of me, I'm going to try to stop that boat from sinking. You may not be able to cover the social media and all of the media and everything else that's out there, but do what's under your control, what you can do. Not every kid, and you know, I've heard comments about these books are not being checked out. Well, I can show you that they are being checked out. I can show you the evidence if you want to see it. And I thank you so much. There was one person, I'm sorry, my time's up.
Thank you, Ms. Luce. All right, board members, that completes public comment for items within our public hearing. So now we're going to move into Q1, which is our policy updates. We have 2 replacement policies that were brought forward in our December work session, and we're going to take these separately. So we're going to start with policy 2522, challenges to adoption or use of instructional library or reading list materials. I'll take a motion to approve it as written. All right. At this point, I'm not receiving any motion on this policy, and we will just move on.
Do you want us, if
Yeah,
we
Ms.
would like to
Wyatt.
delay it, would you like that to be a motion to have a 3rd reading at the next meeting? Or do we need to have a motion for that? I think
At this point,
Stand by, Mr. Bridges. Let me
in
get
the
your
absence of a motion, the item would die tonight. And it can be brought back at any subsequent meeting with any changes that board members may request or the staff. But as of right now, that motion, that item is dead for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. All right, we will now move on then at this point. So I'll take a motion to approve policy 7540.02, which is web content apps and services. This one is a revision to incorporate statutory updates from Senate Bill 258 and then House Bill 379. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
All right, Ms. Fields has made the motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
All right, Ms. Miller has seconded that policy. Any discussion, board members? All right, seeing none.
I'm going to ask a point of clarification here because I don't want there to be any further miscommunication about this. With the board not taking any action, nor has the board provided any additional direction, the board cannot provide direction outside of this meeting as a collective group. I do not take direction from individuals. I take direction from either the majority of the board or the entirety of the board. So if the board wants anything to change subsequent to that first policy, I need to get that direction here this evening. If not, I will bring it back to a workshop as a new item, and the board can workshop it. But Then we have to go through 2 additional readings. It starts all over again. It does not go back, and we do not assume that we can then have a hearing that same night to approve a policy. So I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page with the board based on the conversation earlier today.
Well, there were no amendments made tonight.
Okay.
So stand by. I do have some comments here, so we'll keep moving with this. So, Mr. Sharpless, you're recognized.
Sure. Did not bring anything up because it was not on the floor to discuss. That's one reason I didn't. But I did make I proposed a few amendments today that just discussed them during work session. Those are very clear for me. I can read what do you need me to do?
I don't, respectfully, I need the board to take action.
All right.
You have put and I think you have to reiterate them here, quite frankly.
Sure.
But then the board, respectfully, Mr. Bridges, please correct me if I'm wrong, I need to get some conversation amongst the board and a direction. Or, if the board wishes not to address it at this time, I am happy to take what was discussed this morning and see about what further revisions. But again, it will have to go to workshop, it'll have to have a second reading, and then have to come for a public hearing. So I'm just making you aware that you're going to extend the timeline by not providing direction tonight. If you're not comfortable doing that because there isn't an opportunity to have the full discussion, fine with that. I just want to make sure that there isn't an expectation that everything's going to change in that policy between now and the next meeting because there's been no direction to do so. All the board did tonight was refuse to acknowledge the policy, and it dies by lack of a motion. If I'm misspeaking, Mr. Bridges, please.
No, I believe that is correct. I believe that it would probably be the best approach to do as the superintendent has suggested and schedule this for the next work session.
Okay.
Thrash it out, get every suggestion that everyone on the board wishes to make, and do it all publicly where it can be seen. And then once we've done that, the staff can craft presumably a draft that will incorporate the items that the majority of the board are interested in, and we can notice that for a first reading and then bring it back at a public hearing for adoption.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges.
Yeah, we went backwards.
Yeah.
That was the first one. Now we're back to.
We already voted on this.
Can I ask?
All right, so I'm going to now recognize Ms. Wyatt. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just to be clear, so if we need to advertise for a public hearing for that, should we go ahead and give you authorization for that tonight? Because if we wait until the March meeting, it's only 28 days between the March meeting and the April meeting.
I can go ahead and get authority. We will not place the notice until the language is.
But we can do that at the early March work session. But if you need authority, we should
Yes,
probably do that
that way
tonight.
I can go ahead and get it advertised, but we'll do it. The advertisement and the work session will probably happen on the same day. We have, the language has to be complete.
So, but you can go ahead and get authority from us.
Yes, I'll
tonight
go ahead
that way.
and get authority so that
That
at
way it doesn't
such time
getting delayed.
as the language has been finalized, we can advertise for the public
Thank you.
hearing and avoid undue delay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. And Ms. Fields, you're recognized.
I actually had canceled mine, but I just wanted to make sure that Superintendent Hyde was good and you have a clear sense of direction. Because
Yes.
it's been a little bit confusing.
Yes,
so-
ma'am. We will bring it back to the next workshop and take feedback from the board. We'll revise the policy at a subsequent meeting, and then hopefully at the April meeting, we can bring it forward for a final vote and public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thanks, Ms. Fields. So going back at this point, we did have a motion on the floor for policy 7540.02. And did you get that motion? Record it? In a second. Okay, so at this point, we're going to now call for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 And those opposed? And the motion carries. All right, next we have the Attendance Boundary Committee recommendation for James E. Stevens Elementary. The recommended action is to approve the Attendance Boundary Committee recommendation for James E. Stevens Elementary. We had our first reading and now the second. Now we move to the adoption. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
All right, we have Ms. Cunningham that made the motion.
Second.
And Mr. Sharpless made the second. Any discussion? I don't see anything from any board members. I did bring a point of discussion to Superintendent Hyde, and if you want to maybe address those things that I had asked in email form as it relates to this particular item. Just to give you context, my questions were related to the developments off of Ernie Smith Road, and which is not in the ARC GIS, and I was just curious. Superintendent Hyde did follow up and said that there were 92 single-family homes going in at the corner of 540 and 98. So I just wanted to, as we look at the options there, I'm seeing what the number is for utilization for Spencer Holland in this transition, and just to make sure we were calculating all of that growth and development that's happening as that would feed potentially to Spencer Holland.
Correct. We did at the time. We just got that information just in time as we started the analysis. So that development we did account for in the possible options that we were presented.
Okay. So what's the multi-family units on the Ernie Smith, and then how many households in the Ernie Smith area? Do you have that data?
I will get it to you before the night is out.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. All right. I see no other points of discussion on this one. And I would like to call for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And that motion carries. Moving on now to the Attendance Boundary Committee recommendation for Fred Garner Elementary. This would be Q3. The recommendation is to approve the Attendance Boundary Committee for Fred Garner Elementary. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Ms. Cunningham made the motion. I need a second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Sharpless made the second. And I'm going to now move into discussion. Ms. Wyatt, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I've mentioned this at both as we've workshopped this during our work sessions and at the first review meeting. I will be voting against this. I love Garner Elementary. It has nothing to do with the school. However, in making it a magnet school with no zoned attendance boundary, that means there is now no school in North Winter Haven that has a zoned attendance boundary for elementary. You have Jewett School of the Arts, which is a magnet school, Garner right down the road, which is a magnet school, and then Brigham Academy, which is a magnet school. They all surround some of our most vulnerable populations. In a community that was assured if Garner became a magnet school that there would be a priority zone so that students that live in that neighborhood aren't being bused to the other side of the city, or even many of them to Auburndale or Lake Alfred outside of the Winter Haven area to go to school. I think we have a responsibility to educate these students where they are. And this is, as we've added more and more magnet schools, the problem just increases, that there are fewer and fewer zoned schools. And we have a responsibility to educate students. They have to be zoned somewhere. So as we continue to create magnet schools, we're creating a larger issue that they cannot be zoned to the schools that are right near their house, and they're going to have to be bused outside of the community. We know that parent engagement increases when you're closer to your school, and when you can ride the bus home, when you can walk home, that when you're being bused across town, it is not good for students, it is not good for families. And I will not support this measure.
Thank you, Ms. Wyatt. And Ms. Fields, you're recognized.
Okay, we've had a lot of discussion about this over the last few months. And Superintendent Hyde, I would just ask you, what happens if we don't approve this? I know that some of this is magnified from the magnet school state feds. And if we don't approve it, I guess the question is, what are our options? Or do we have any options other than not approving it?
So at this time, if the board were not to approve this, we would be in violation of the agreement that we entered into with the federal government as it relates to the MSAP grant. The board historically has done multiple MSAP grants. This process started even before I was in the district. And so if we were basically not adhering to the requirements of that grant, we would be responsible to return a little over approximately $2.5 million back to the federal government. That does not mean that the STEM program could not remain there, but we would have to return those dollars at this time.
And then, thank you for the answer. And my comments then, before and now is that we told the community that we were going to have a magnet school at Garner. And so I'm kind of like in between. I understand what you're saying, Ms. Wyatt. I understand that. But I don't want us to have said to the community and to the parents and to the students that we're going to have this program, and then now we snatch it away. I think that's my biggest concern.
If I may remind, though, the board, we continue to have dialogue with USED as it pertains to this, and they were receptive to some carve-outs within that community. It may not necessarily address the full extent of Ms. Wyatt's concerns with students who reside with less than 2 miles. However, right now, there's an assurance within that community that everybody who's attending that school is grandfathered in for the entirety of their tenure there for the next 5 years. Additionally, we are continue to work with USED. Ms. Wyatt's concerns are well expressed and well understood, and so we've been in constant conversation with them about how to do this. In the future, this is something we need to probably have further discussion about, because school-wide magnet programs are problematic for this very reason. Students and families can see a school immediately across the street or adjacent to their community and neighborhood, but then they don't realize, I can't attend there unless I'm accepted into that program. We are very fortunate in a number of our schools that, because of the school sizes and based off the high mobility rate at times, we typically have enough space in our schools, and there are only a handful of programs that have waiting lists, essentially. So I think over time we can address this issue. I'm still remain hopeful that USAD will provide us with some further clarification, and I will be happy to bring that back to the next board meeting to provide you with an update as to where we are with our recommendations and requests of the department in creating some flexibility to create a priority attendance zone for certain students. The purpose of the grant, again, is to prevent marginalization of certain communities, to ensure also that we're increasing the diversity of students in our campuses. And so we hope that magnet schools will attract that, and that's the purpose that we've been very successful to date as a district with those. But this obviously is something we need to continue to have dialogue about, because, and with our growth, this is an issue that we need to be very cognizant of moving forward. So that's the status quo. Is if we don't fulfill the obligations of the grant, we are required to refund those dollars. There's no additional penalty beyond that. I think I'm fearful to a certain extent that it may adversely impact future grant submissions, but we may want to take a different track altogether and not do school-wide programs in the future. We may want to do school-within-a-school programs, which are not uncommon, and we have, very much like our academies function within our high schools, there are opportunities for us to do these similar programs and create magnet attractors, but on a smaller scale. Maybe worth a further discussion, but I'll be happy to bring you back an update as to our conversations with USED.
So my last question for right now is, so does this have to be approved tonight? If we are having conversation with them?
No, ma'am. It does. There's not an urgency or a timeline right now definitively that the board has to approve it tonight. If the board were to reject the rezoning, that's where the problem becomes. But if the board wants to delay this until I can provide an additional update, or at least a timeline in which we expect to receive a final decision from USED, happy to do so if the board wants to take that move in that direction.
Well, that's what I would prefer to do as a board member, but I'm only one voice.
All right, Ms. Fields, thank you. Ms. Miller?
Thank you. I just have a question. We've had this issue in the past with magnets, and I don't know what the mechanism is, but I know at Jewett, the community wanted to see more of their students in those schools, so we made a commitment to the kindergarten. We did the same thing at Lincoln, would consist of majority of the neighborhood, or there was a percentage. We can implement something like that. Can we implement something like that, Superintendent Hyde, is my question.
And I think that's exactly what we're trying to work through with USED, because our initial application did not necessarily reflect that. And there is a requirement that you diversify the population. That is the whole purpose behind the grant, as well as innovation, right, and putting best practices in place. So that school not only became a magnet school, but it's a magnet STEM academy for our students and communities. So that is what we're working towards, though.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. All right, any other discussion, board members? I don't see anything else on the list here. I'd like to call for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we have 2 nays, and the motion does carry. All right, thank you, board members, for your work on these items within our public hearing. Moving down to letter R, this would be the superintendent's report. Superintendent, do you have a report for us tonight?
I do. I want to touch on a couple things. Agra Fest is ongoing this week and next week. We heard discussion about that earlier today. It's important for us to continue to fulfill the expectations and the legacy that agriculture and agri-science has had here in Polk County, driving our economic engine for so many years, and actually we're seeing hopefully a resurgence in the near future. But our students are excited. Agra Fest is a program where students rotate through 6 stations. They do everything from animal husbandry to citrus to learning about beekeeping and phosphate. It's not so much about phosphate as much as the students actually look through a pile and they actually identify fossils, because there's a lot of those here in Florida for obvious reasons. And so it's a really interesting experience. Our kids get very excited. So it is going on for the next 2 weeks. I believe there are calendar invites on your calendar. You're not expected to go every day, even though it may show up on your calendar every day. But if you do get an opportunity, I think you'll be very impressed at the level of engagement that our students have and the questions they ask. And quite frankly, standing there with Ms. Anderson the other day, I learned quite a few things, new things about citrus. For example, that it was the Spaniards that brought citrus to Florida so many years ago. Did not know that. And there were some other interesting facts that you learn while you're sitting there with our students. And they are all about it. And they have a gentleman there who talks about ranching and the cattle industry here in Florida. And he uses his whip. They talk about the science behind how the whip works, that what is it that actually makes the sound. And it's the fact that it breaks the speed of sound at the end of the whip. And that's what the crack actually comes from. They talk about how they herd animals, why they herd animals the way they do. And again, the economics behind it. So it's a great experience, especially on the heels of the Polk County Fair. In addition to that, we're very excited about some of our other initiatives that are moving forward. I had a chance this afternoon to speak about Homeland, the Homeland Project, with $3.5 million of investment and capital provided to us by the Florida legislature to help us launch that. We have some additional good news. 3DE Tenor Rock received a private donation of $2.5 million to help with the facility construction. So we're very excited about that. I will not disclose the donor at this time. I believe they've requested to remain somewhat anonymous at this point. But that's an exciting thing to support, again, that Biz Town experience that our students in other surrounding counties will have an opportunity to come to for field trips. And we're waiting. Hopefully we'll see some appropriation support this year from the legislature. In addition to that. So we're really moving in a great direction with our academies. Excited about the opportunities to bring new job descriptions before the board so that, again, our goal is to address and ensure that we continue to maintain the integrity of our existing systems and watch them continue to flourish, but also keep an eye on the future, because the current industries that we support in 10 years may not be the industries that are in high demand. As we all know, industries evolve, needs evolve, skill sets evolve, and we want to make sure that our students are at the forefront of that. So again, an exciting time to be innovating in the education sector with so many of our committed business partners. Had a great opportunity recently to present at a Rotary, the Lakeland Rotary event. I was told that they actually carry that designation. Had a fantastic time with them, great questions that they asked, very engaged community. And again, we'll be ramping up superintendent's visits across the district. As we get closer to the fourth quarter here of the school year. I typically do 6 to 10 of those towards the end of the year. Additionally, DAC, the District Advisory Committee, will be hosting multiple meetings across the county. They're actually now looking to add another location, physical location, and then they'd like to add a virtual option as well. So we're in discussions about how to support that. DAC will be addressing, as the board is informed, DAC will be trying to get feedback from our community specific about school start times. The legislature passed new policies that require that high schools cannot start before 8:30 in the morning, middle schools cannot start before 8 a.m. The problem for our school district, again, just for your benefit and for that of the community that's listening, we require, because we run a 3-tier system, we run elementary, middle, high schools, obviously not in that order, but we need an hour to properly do it with our current equipment and with our current staffing level, we need an hour in between each one of those tiers, which means if middle school starts at 8, high schools start at 9. Elementary schools either start at 7 or they start at 10. Neither one is going to benefit our families. So what DAC is going to be discussing with them is the option of how are we okay with busing elementary and middle school students simultaneously. We do it successfully now. We have multiple K-8 buildings, and Mr. Davis is working to address that. As I shared with the board previously, we were asked by the state of Florida to provide feedback. We were one of the pilot districts that they asked for feedback about the financial impact that this would have on our district. It's over $19 million in additional equipment to add buses to our fleet. The problem with that, right now, this has to be implemented in 2026. There isn't enough lead time to make the purchases and get the buses delivered, because guess what? 66 other counties in the state of Florida are all scrambling for buses at the same time. We have been raising our bus driver salaries. I'm very proud of that fact. We'll continue to see those inch up. We're at $18 an hour for a starting salary. I think that's fantastic. The goal is to get to 20. But at $18 an hour, we still have over 60 vacancies. So it is a legitimate issue for us moving forward, how to best address this need. So that's part of the superintendent's update, just to put a few things out there for you and for our community. In the superintendent's report, the next work session and board meeting will be held on March 26, 2024. The work session will begin at 12:30 p.m. and the board meeting will begin at 5 p.m. Excuse me. We will hold a special work session on March 19th, starting at 9 a.m. The meetings will be held at the district office located at 1915 South Floral Avenue in Bartow. And actually, this is a never mind. There's a different work session that's actually off-site. So that's it, sir.
All right, thank you, Superintendent. Thanks for your passion and leadership around the district. Appreciate you. Next, we'll move to the attorney's report. So, Mr. Bridges, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen. I have 3 items for you this evening, each of which will require action by the school board. The first is a request to approve the contract with the Division of Administrative Hearings for the provision of administrative law judges during the upcoming year. Administrative law judges typically hear employee discipline cases, they hear bid protest cases, they hear due process cases under the IDEA, a variety of other administrative matters that come up. We are required to use them, and they are not free. This contract is sort of a unicorn, and I gather it's been passed around from department to department, and as with the other dogs and cats, it ended up on my desk, so I'm bringing it to you. It is not optional. It is, and it's an annual contract that will renew automatically, which is why you haven't seen one of these in a while. It's been renewing automatically quietly in the background. I've provided for you a proposed motion in order to approve this contract.
All right, so at this point, we have an opportunity to strike a motion to approve the Division of Administrative Hearings, Administrative Law Judge Services contract. All right, so Ms. Fields, you made the motion, and Ms. Wyatt seconded. Any discussion, board members, on this? All right, very good. I'll take a vote. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Bridges?
The second item I have for you is to bring back to you the application of charter of Navigator Academy of Leadership High School, Davenport. You will recall that early in 2023, this entity applied for a new charter school in Davenport to be built on the same campus as their existing school. And that application was denied by the school board on several bases, but the 3 big ones were their transportation provision, which essentially they didn't have one, their staffing plan, and primarily, and most importantly, their budget. They had, it was not a solvent budget as presented. So the school board denied that application, and the State Charter Appeal Commission finally got around to hearing it in December. At that time, the Appeal Commission consists of 5 people, 2 that represent school districts, 2 that represent charter schools, and one member that is appointed by the commissioner. And the commissioner's designee is the tiebreaker. We spent, Candy Amato and I went up and spent a good 6 hours grinding on this thing with the Charter Appeals Committee, and the net result at the end was a split vote, 2 for, 2 against, and the commissioner's designee breaking the tie. And they voted to grant their appeal. They essentially, the council, and I've cited the case law that the DOE General Counsel representative raised, that essentially said the Charter Appeals Commission may consider information that was not presented to the school board in the application. And they proceeded to do that at great length on transportation, on staffing, and most importantly on budget. After which they voted, as I mentioned, 3-2 to grant the appeal. That went to the state board, let's see, in the middle of January, and we got their order at the end of January, and I'm presenting it to you tonight. This is another thing that you don't have a lot of discretion on. You either have to appeal that to the District Court of Appeals as a final order, or grant it. And if you fail to do one of those, well, let me just read you the relevant provisions of the statute. Sponsor shall act upon the decision of the State Board of Education within 30 calendar days after it is received. That was January 31. The State Board of Education's decision is a final action subject to judicial review in the District Court of Appeal. A prevailing party may file an action with the Division of Administrative Hearings to recover reasonable attorney fees and costs. So if you appeal it and you lose, you get to pay their attorneys. A school district that fails to implement the decision affirmed by a District Court of Appeal shall reduce the administrative fees withheld pursuant to subsection 20 to 1% for all charter schools. So there's a monetary sanction there as well. You may appeal it. I'm not bringing you a recommendation that you do that. This process is, as another process we talked about today, is primarily political. It looks like a legal process. It is a political process. And I don't see a particular reward in trying to appeal this to the second district. I suspect that it would have the same result that we received in Tallahassee. So bottom line is the State Board of Education granted their appeal and sent back the recommended order, the final order, which I've provided to you, ordering the school board to approve their application, at which time it'll be as if the school board approved it in the first place, and we will go negotiate a charter contract. But it will include things that were not in the original application. It will include things that were brought forward in terms of, basically, they intend to capitalize on the resources of the existing school. That was not in the application, but that is the existing school is cash flush, and we've had prior case law that allows charter schools to share funds between related charter schools. So it is brought to you tonight with my recommendation that you go ahead and approve the state board's final order, and Candy Amato and I will proceed to negotiate a contract with Navigator.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. So board members, I'm looking for a motion to approve the charter application of Navigator Academy of Leadership High School, Davenport, in accordance with the final order of the Florida State Board of Education dated on January 31st, 2024.
So moved.
So Mr. Sharplesson made the motion. I'm looking for a second. Okay, Ms. Fields has seconded. Any discussion, board members? Ms. Fields, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Allen. I read the information, Wes, and thank you for your insight. And it's unfortunate that sometimes we are thinking one way and it goes another. But at the end of the day, if I am listening correctly and reading correctly, we don't really have a choice in the matter.
Is it's either take it on appeal to the District Court of Appeals or approve the application tonight.
Right, and we know what that looks like.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fields. Mr. Sharpless, you're recognized.
I just want to take a point of personal privilege and thank Wes and Candy Amato, both for their hard work in Tallahassee. You don't always win them, but you certainly tried hard, and I appreciate that. And like Board Member Field said, we can try to fight this, but I don't see it being favorable for us, which is why I made the motion.
Thank you, sir. And I would say that we could win this on the law all day long, but on the politics, that's a matter for people up north.
All right, board members. So we've got a motion on the floor in a second. I'll now call for a vote on this one. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed?
Aye. Opposed, nay. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Cunningham? All right, anything else?
Yes, sir. We had one more item from our earlier discussion. I would request authority to advertise a public hearing on policy 2522 at such time as the language is finalized and made available for publication. We will not advertise it for public hearing until that language is ready to be made available to the public. But in the interest of having the authority in advance, because we'll likely have a tight time schedule to get it advertised and to allow 28 days for the public hearing. So I'd go ahead and ask for authority to do that tonight, and then we'll wait the final language.
All right.
So moved.
Good. So I've got Ms. Cunningham that made the motion, Ms. Wyatt seconded right about the same time. So thanks for being aggressive, y'all. So at this point, no discussion. I don't see any discussion on the list. We'll go ahead and take a vote on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you so much, Mr. Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Next item on our agenda, moving down, is the auditor's report. And Ms. Matthews is out this evening, but as you noted via email, you've received at least 6 audit reports from Ms. Matthews since our last board meeting. So if you have any concerns, you can address those with her. And next we move down to the board members' report. And what I'd like to do tonight is I'll start actually with the highest district number and then work down from there. And that means we will start with you, Ms. Miller.
Alan? Not really, but I will be. No, thank you very much. I don't want to take up too much time. I spend a lot of my days in schools. Superintendent and I got to hang out at the Polk State College. What do they call that building? Tenorock came to present, what's the name of the building? Safety something. Center for Public Safety. The students at Tenorock, through their 3DE program, had to come present their final case challenge on Home Depot. And as usual, it was amazing. The kids did. They had to solve the issue of how to attract more people to certain departments because Home Depot is going to do away with so much of inventory and they want to focus on certain areas. And we had some great kids show up again. And I don't love judging that because I used to teach kindergarten and everybody wins. And so it was tough, but the kids really showed up and impressed us as usual. You know, I went to Harrison to see the behind the scenes tour, and I'm also going to be attending, this is their spring musical this weekend. Sorry, I'm stealing this from you, Chair Allen. Spring musical this weekend is Sister Act, and if you haven't seen the preview, if you weren't able to do that when they did that earlier, it's going to be an amazing show. Harrison always puts on a good show, so I'm definitely going to be visiting there this weekend. We have a lot of talent in our district. Stambaugh does a phenomenal job. I actually met the mayor of Auburndale, and we sat and watched James and the Giant Peach with Stambaugh, and they did a phenomenal job. This month has been the month of theater. I want to recognize Ms. Dawn Hancock that's still in the audience. Everybody loves Cluster, and I can tell you that Medella, she does an amazing job. I've watched her work in high schools with Learning Strats kids. She has worked for 30 years. I know she looks very young. For 30 years, she's worked for this district in a wide range of roles, and she always takes these kids and this work home with her. She is dedicated to the progress of these students. If you want to see an amazing classroom, I'm sure she will give you a tour at Medella. If you've not been to our center schools, there's lots of clusters. I'm telling you, we have staff very much dedicated to these students and what they're doing. The fact that Miss Shirley's been a bus driver for 50 years, longer than I've been alive, and especially transporting these students, there are people dedicated to kids in this district, and I just want to say I recognize you, I see you. The work is difficult. These grades, these test grades that Cluster takes counts against the district, counts with the district like any other student, and can you imagine the pressure of the staff trying to make sure that everybody is reaching their potential. So I'm so happy to know Ms. Hancock, and I'm surprised you stayed this long, so I had to recognize you, and I appreciate your work. I want to say again to this community who supports these schools, the overwhelmingly majority of this community loves Polk and what we do and cares about these students. The fact that you saw Nancy Dodd sit up here and wrote a $100,000 check to one school, the fact that there's a donor that he won't mention, we can all guess, with over $2 million to one school, to one program, we're doing it right here in Polk County, no matter what you hear. The people that are involved with our students, the people dedicated and spend time with our kids, they understand the lift, and we appreciate you. This is the time of year where people are stressed out to the max, and we just want to tell you that how much we appreciate you, and we're going to all see you through to the end. Spring break, hopefully, is relaxing for many of you. Willow Oak, my first visit to Willow Oak was this last week or so. That school is, I tell them not to show everybody that school because it's new and those pre-K units are beautiful. I had to sit through a federal audit with our Head Start and pre-K, and they were here and they toured some of those schools, and they were very happy with what they saw. Polk was exceeding expectations. Those units were engaged, the students were learning, and they were very happy with that. So I was glad because I was sweating that even as a board member for just a few minutes. I want to encourage you to get out. This is the season of fundraising for our kids. This is the season of theater. There's lots to do in Polk County, and I want to celebrate with you, with our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Now to District 6, that would be Mr. Sharpless.
I'm going to keep it relatively short. I'm just going to talk about three things. The first, we already talked about earlier this evening, but I was down on the floor for special recognitions for Love the Bus Month. I just want to personally say thank you to each one of our bus drivers out there, our bus attendants, everyone who works in that department. You're transporting our most precious resources every day. And, you know, want to give a shout out real quick to my cousin Kathy, who's a bus driver. If I don't do that, I might get in trouble. But anyhow, I went to their at the beginning of the school year. I went to their professional development they had up there at Davenport High School, and just you can tell they love our students. So I personally just want to say thank you to each one of them. The second thing I want to talk about, last month I attended a community meeting at McLaughlin Academy of Excellence. It was to welcome Principal Dr. Linda Ray to the school, and man, she's contagious with positivity. And so, you know, one of the things she said is that she wanted to start highlighting the kids that are doing it right. And so, you know, I just want to thank Dr. Ray for stepping up and becoming principal of the school, and the staff for supporting her. And the last thing I want to talk about, Superintendent Hyde stole a little bit of my thunder, but that's okay, because he's allowed to. Today, so our work session started at 12:30, but from 9:30 to 12, I was actually at Agra Fest volunteering as a group leader. And I can tell you the fourth graders there, you know, they were just so excited to be there and learn about agriculture, and that makes this professor's heart really happy, okay? I want to give a shout out to the teachers that I was their group leader for their classes, because their students were very well behaved, and I just want to give a shout out to them. Bennett and Looper from Willow Oak, Schmidt from Frostproof Ben Hill Griffin Elementary, and Davis from Fred Garner Academy. Just want to say thank you to those teachers specifically for having well-behaved, and all the students that were there were well-behaved, but I got to have a little more one-on-one time as a group leader for those students. And thank you to Polk County Farm Bureau, as well as our Polk County Public Schools and University of Florida IFAS for supporting that endeavor. And I didn't get to say anything because I was down there for special recognitions, but specifically thank you to Jessica Anderson for all of her hard work in this endeavor. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharpless. Moving now to District 5, that would be Ms. Fields.
Thank you, Chair Allen. Superintendent Hyde, I want to thank you for the nonprofit organizations that you brought before us today, helping us to understand what's out there and how we can benefit folks beyond the school district. Also want to thank you for bringing Cluster. That was very touching. And it really helps us, it helped me to appreciate things that I sometimes take for granted. And for those of you that are here in the audience, this is one of the drawings that he did for me, and everyone has the same thing, similar anyway, and it's beautiful. And I want to say thank you, Cluster. You are amazing, and you are very creative. This month is Black History Month, and had an opportunity to be the guest speaker at the Florida Department of Transportation, and it was very amazing how so many people want to know the history, and how many folks that look like me have been able to overcome a lot of obstacles in our lifetime. I'm not going to tell my story today because it would take too long, but I will say that I am from a very small community in Macomb, Mississippi, and we grew up in the era where we weren't allowed to benefit from some of the things that I think now too many of our youth and even adults take for granted, like being able to go to McDonald's and get a hamburger, and having to go to the back door, or to the window, the side window, to get a hamburger. I'm not even being able to get a hamburger, or being able to use whatever restroom that we wanted to use, or having to go to a nasty water fountain because the water fountain that we had said that we had to drink from there and couldn't drink from another. So these things I think that we sometimes take for granted. And so the more that we can educate our young people, and the more that we can just educate people in general about the opportunities that we are now afforded that many of us did not have, and the lives that many people lost because of their belief that freedom should be available to any and everybody. And then I would say one of the things that I said to the employees at the Florida Department of Transportation is that we're all God's children. And we're supposed to love one another. And I hope and pray as we get ready to enter into another month that we will take it upon ourselves to learn some facts about the benefits and the contributors for Black History Month and beyond February. And then the value of just being kind and just being nice and supportive of one another. So that is what I would say. All right, thank you.
Fields. Now we're moving to District 4. Ms. Wyatt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. So I have a couple fun things coming up in Winter Haven. The first is this Saturday is Community Fest. It is family-friendly downtown. We have several of our schools performing. Starts at 11 a.m. and goes until 4 p.m. It's a great opportunity to get really to see a lot of what's going on with several of our nonprofits and the business community, but a lot of our schools will have booths set up there as well. Next week, get ready, guys. It is basketball state tournament. So Winter Haven High School, the girls are in the semifinals and play at 1 p.m. on Friday the 8th. The boys are in the semifinals and play at 3 p.m. on Friday the 8th. So I will be there. I hope to see several of you there. It is a great time. Superintendent Hyde and I got to sit next to each other last year. It gets very heated up. Basketball moves quickly. But so it is, we are wishing them the best of luck. I know they're going to bring the state titles home this year. I can feel it in my bones. And then I did want to highlight, Superintendent Hyde already highlighted the DAC town halls coming up. Please, parents and business owners, make sure that you're participating in those. I don't think, we talk a lot about how this is going to affect families, but I don't know that businesses totally understand yet how that will affect their staffing models. When you think high schoolers can't be out of school at 2 p.m. to start a job at 2:30 or 3, but it really is going to affect our entire community in various ways. So making sure that we're all educated and know how to best prepare for that. And I believe that concludes my report.
Ms. Wyatt, thank you so much. From District 4, now moving to District 3, Mr. Nolte.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. We offer a diverse education experience here in Polk County. I've attended several athletic events, games and things, and I'd like to give good super respect for Dan Talbot and his super staff, all the things they get to do, and it's such a big county, and they're driving all over the place, but they're doing an awesome job, and the coaches that are working with our students and the fans, and everything's just tremendous. And also I've attended some awesome concerts. It was a string concert at, let's see, string was at Branscombe Auditorium. It was an all-star or all-county. And then I attended at Ridge Community College. It was Ridge Community High School. It was the piano concert. And so kudos out to Beth Cummings and her staff. Also, I attended probably the most beautiful celebration of life I've ever seen, conducted by one of the faculty members for Ashley Evans down at Fort Meade. And I apologize for missing today's work session. I was getting a tune-up at Moffett, and I'll be having about 30 or 40 more, so thank you. That concludes my report.
Mr. Nolte, glad you made it.
Thank you.
Thanks for your report as well. Ms. Cunningham?
Thank you, Chairman Allen. I just want to remind everybody we're going into spring break. So be mindful and careful. There's going to be a lot of kids out on streets and playing in the fields and doing fun things. So I want to wish the kids a lot of fun. Just be careful out there when we're driving. Really, really careful, because the kids are going to be out and about, which is what they should be doing instead of on their phones. So I think that's great. But we have to consider safety first. The other thing I want to do is to wish staff some rest and relaxation, because this is all we get, and then boom, right into those last, 8 weeks before the end of school. So try to get some rest and get everything ready to go to give it that final push before the end of the year is up. Additionally, I want to remind parents as well as the kids, readers become leaders. So this is a great time to check out some books, whether it's at your local library or through your library cooperative. We have one of the best here in Polk County. If you have a book that you want to read and it's not at your library, you can get it brought to your library through the library cooperative throughout all of Polk County. I did that with my daughter for years and years. And what a great time to get caught up on some extra reading to keep those skills fine-tuned over our spring break. And I wish everybody some rest and relaxation. And Chairman Allen, that concludes my report, sir.
Ms. Cunningham, thank you so much. I do have just a few reports as well, and as typical, I do want to start with the idea that we have a chance to serve the most highly educated workforce in Polk County. So, and we have some great educators out here. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. So I've been trying to highlight some of our educators that have pursued their PhD work and completed a PhD. And I asked for their dissertation title and a little bit about their PhD work. And the one I was going to highlight tonight was Dr. Bruce Sabin. And he teaches, and we all know that name, but he teaches at George Jenkins High School in Social Studies. And the title of his dissertation was A Faith-Based Program Evaluation, Moral Development of Seminary Students at the Louisiana State Penitentiary. Really fascinating title. You dig in a little bit. He did a pretty hefty quantitative study, sort of correlating Myers-Briggs indicator instruments and this defining issues test 2. He really wanted to know what the extent of students in the program and how they develop this moral judgment consistent with program goals. Really fascinating study. But here he is in our classroom, serving our students. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that experience and that knowledge to our classroom. And then next, I'd like to just highlight a couple, things along the way. School visits, I'm right in the middle of that, and I'm probably scheduled out for the next couple months now to visit some of our schools in District 1. Thanks to the principals for taking time to visit with me during that, to walk around campus and, you pop into these classrooms. It's amazing what's happening. And then you build this heritage as well. For example, I was at Jesse Keene with Dr. Dentling, and I shared a post, and then there's Betty Fitzgerald, that's like, oh yeah, I know her. We work together, so and so. Well, Miss Fitzgerald is like my 5th grade teacher, one of my favorite elementary teachers at James E. Stevens. So we've got a long history of great educators that have left a legacy on our current educators, which is pretty amazing. I do see Assistant Principal Miss Camp out there. Thanks for being with us. Was over at Medola, and their cafetorium is really coming along nicely. Boy, I was at Crystal Lake Elementary, the middle, Oscar J., Lakeland Highlands, so many schools so far, and had a chance to make my first official visit at George Jenkins. So we have some great educators and just some extremely talented students. Love popping into the classroom and just seeing what's going on. And then speaking of that, our most talented students at Harrison. Literally, I mean, we have people that drive and send their kids from other counties to attend Harrison School of the Arts. This is the premier arts school. And I had a chance to take part in the red carpet evening. Miss Miller mentioned what's coming up, the Sisters Act. Very nice comedy musical. I did secure my tickets for Friday night. Anybody else joining me? Are you gonna be? You're going Saturday? All right, I'll be there on Friday night. So take part in that. Then I also wanted to note at the Polk Museum of Art is the senior art exhibit. And you know, if you couple that with the Norman Rockwell exhibition, I would highly encourage you. Probably one of the strongest exhibitions at the Polk Museum of Art at Florida Southern College. But definitely swing into the senior art exhibit, and you'll be blown away by the work of our students. It's incredible. And then, you know, I was at Bartow High, my alma, just recently for the All-County FCCLA, which is the Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, and actually ran into a parent that is coming from Hillsborough to send their daughter to Harrison. And they were there and pretty involved. But what's intriguing to me was just, you know, walking around talking with these students that are a part of that all-county initiative. And, you know, they selected a job that they wanted. They did all the research, and then they went through these mock interviews. I mean, there were so many different things, these real-world skills that they were gaining and sharing, which is pretty incredible. So I just want to say thanks to the staff that's really involved in that process and guiding our students. And then, in conclusion, I know I haven't really brought any pencil facts to y'all lately, but I've been holding the Blackwing matte pencil in my hand, and it was one of the first ones to have the patent on the removable eraser. But what's unique about this pencil in particular, right, it has ridges. It's a hexagonal pencil. And a lot of people think, well, we just did the hexagonal pencil back in the day when we had sloped desks, so the pencils wouldn't roll off the desk. But Henry Petrosky, who's the greatest pencil historian, just passed away last year. He taught history of engineering at Duke University, basically said that pencil manufacturers actually went circular because they could get about 10% more, right, out of the wood by going hexagonal rather than round. So it's a myth that they were hexagonal just so they wouldn't roll off the desk. So I thought that I'd share that fact with you tonight. And that is actually all of our comments. So thanks for sharing your good work around the county. All right, so the next thing, we will now transition to our, I know, he's leaving on that note. We got a little bit.
Matt, would you please forgive me if I step across the hall from you?
Please do. Okay, so we're going to now move to the public comments portion of our meeting at this point. So let me get set up for that. So the next item on our agenda is public comments addressing items not on our agenda item tonight. So thanks for being with us this whole evening. It's been a full round of items. So as noted earlier, to register to speak, community members must fill out a speaking card in the lobby prior to the meeting. All speakers are going to be given 3 minutes to speak. The light will turn yellow when you have 1 minute left, and then you'll hear a beep when the time is concluded. Please note that although board encourages community participation, no media action will be taken on the items presented tonight. So I have a list of individuals who've signed up to speak. I'll call your name if you can just come forward, and we will be glad to hear from you. So I've got Glenda White. I don't see her in the audience. Then I have Victor Chandler. Victor Chandler. All right, if you can come forward. And then behind that, I have Bernard Wells. So you'd be on deck. And then behind Bernard, you'd we would have Alicia McLean. So Victor Chandler, if you could come towards the microphone over on this side. And I really appreciate you being here tonight.
I'm just waiting for them to give out the sheets before I start. Last time I came before you, I told you that Will provided a document for you to look at that showed that the pay for all of senior management increased as a percent far greater than for teachers. And that the reason for that was the use of two different type methods for calculating a raise for teachers and for senior management. Now, this change actually occurred over decades and not just a single year. If you'll look on the page, one side of it, it covers one single year, you'll see a 2% raise for both senior management and for teachers. Now for senior management, you'll notice that every number on the salary schedule increased 2%. The beginning salary increased 2% for all of them, maximum. The average salary increased 2%. The cost to hire the same number of administrators at each level increased by 2%. If you look down there for teachers, also got a 2% raise. The beginning salary for a teacher increased 0. And most steps, it increased 0. The maximum teacher salary increased 1.5%, but it took an extra year to get there. The average salary of a teacher increased less than 1%. The increased cost to hire the same number of teachers with the same level of experience increased less than 1%. Now, you might wonder, well, what happened to the money that was set aside for teacher raises if you didn't increase it that much? Well, in the spring of the year, they would calculate how much was necessary to finish paying off the teachers. Then the rest of it was called lag factor and put into a fund that you know as lapse factor. Now the lag factor and lapse factor could be used for anything. It could be used to create a new senior management position if you wanted to. You could finance an increase in a fringe benefit if you wanted to. Now to show you, just to get an idea of the difference, say it hadn't just been 1 year, say it was done for 10 years, and it was done for the superintendent, 2% every year, board member, senior management, teachers. What would have happened? The superintendent's pay would have increased 22%, board member 22%. Every one of the single number on the salary schedule of administrators, 22%. For teachers, beginning salary, 0. The maximum salary would increase 15%. It would have taken 10 extra years to get there.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chandler, thank you for being here. Thanks for the data.
There's a lot more that I needed to say. I would say one thing. Take a look at the sheet. Look at state statute 112.3173 and also
Thank you, sir. And you can reach out to us individually. It'd be great. I appreciate your time. Yeah.
give me a call and I'll meet with you here in the county office.
All right, Mr. Wells, you're up next. And then behind you, you'll have Alicia McLean. All right, very good.
Greetings to each of you. My name is Bernard Wells from Winter Haven. I want to share with you all something that was shared with me that makes a whole lot of sense. And this is based too on what I've seen over the last 2 years. They say that P-O-L-K doesn't mean poke. It means people of little knowledge. When it comes to the ESE leadership, it appears to be true. Since this superintendent has been in position with the help of Lisa Miller, school board member, leadership in that particular department has shrunk to an all-time low. Every person from the assistant superintendent of learning support, Tammy Castle-Williams, to certain of the senior managers put into position with minimum knowledge of ESE laws in general has managed to dismantle the entire department, causing confusion, chaos, and hiding behind a bunch of lies, which seems to be a prerequisite for leadership in that department, resulting in students not receiving their services because it's all about the students. Mr. Hyde, Ms. Miller, this should make you very happy because it appears that that was your intention all along.
Mr. Bernard, let's please,
in your own
address
words,
individual board members.
I'm sorry.
Could we not please engage, stand by, Ms. Miller. Could we please not address individual board members?
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells.
In your own words, in the superintendent's own words, Mr. Chairman, he stated that the ESC department was a toxic environment in need of change. That is a very accurate description of the current ESC department that has been created up under his leadership. The toxicity under his leadership permeates throughout the entire district. 57 out of 67 districts. That's nothing to brag about. That's nothing to smile about. We used to be a B district also. ESC staff was recently directed to withhold information from parents regarding compensatory services owed to their children. That being said, where are the funds that has been allocated to provide these services? I asked that same question about speech and language students not receiving services last year. Where is that fund? Maybe it's like what the gentleman just spoke, where it could be allocated to any of the positions that he mentioned. The district is hiding the truth to its own advantages. I will ask again, where is those funds? Where are those funds? The children are waiting. Also, something that has been brought to my attention, one of your senior directors of human resources, Mr. Curtis Williams, how is it that he can oversee anything governing or concerning issues involving the ESC department, especially when his wife oversees that department? That is a blatant conflict of
Mr. Wells, thank you so much. Alicia McLean, you are up next.
Hi, my name is Alicia McLean. On January 24th, 2024, a teacher at Bartow High School committed slander against my 14-year-old son. She publicly and falsely accused my son of sexual harassment against one of his classmates/friend. The young lady was sitting in front of my son with her head down on the desk, sleeping like this. My son touched or flicked her hair and said, "Get up." The teacher saw him and told him to stop. When he thought the teacher wasn't looking, he did it again. This time the teacher yelled out loud in front of the class, "That is sexual harassment." My son was inclined to verbally defend not only his innocent action, but his character in front of the class. He was then given a referral on the option of in-school suspension or trash detail. The teacher told everyone, including me, that she did not say it was sexual harassment, but said that it could be perceived as sexual harassment. She tried to downplay her statement. By changing the context. I was promised by administration that this would be investigated. They did not respond to my inquiries in a timely manner. They ignored my calls, and only when I emailed the superintendent, Tracy Collins, and Mr. Hyde, there was a meeting set up, and they sent Ty Bruno. He promised an investigation a second time through a third party. The investigation concluded, and it was determined that this teacher did lie. She was not honest, and my son was telling the truth. They refused to tell me what disciplinary action was given to the teacher. They violated several ethical codes. This teacher is still teaching, and she was not suspended, and that is extremely concerning. I pulled a public records request. She had no disciplinary action. I'm in the process of directing my complaints to the appropriate people, and this is why I'm here today. I've contacted the Florida Department of Education, Professional Practices Services, the Florida Commission of Human Relations, plenty of places. I spoke to Brian Warren in HR. He was very aggressive and dismissive to the point where I had to disconnect the call. He did not do his due diligence. He told me because DCF was not getting involved that he had no reason to continue. DCF doesn't handle that kind of matter. They handle the well-being of my child. There was no immediate well-being of my child. That had nothing to do with what the teacher did to my child and how she made him feel that day. Okay? She was dishonest. She slandered my child's name because she had no reason other than my son not listening to her the first time. I feel like it was racially motivated. I have not yet sought legal counsel because my goal is awareness and accountability. If it happened to my child, I can only imagine how many other kids it happened to and it was swept up under the rug. And that's what that is.
Thank you, Ms. McLean. Superintendent Hyde, is this something we can follow up on tonight? Okay. Board members, at this point, if there's no other order of business, I will say that we are now adjourned. Thank you.